My name is Bob Huttinga. I'm a physician assistant, retired. About 22 years ago, Barb and I started the Healing Center in Lakeview, Michigan. The background picture here shows that. We are currently in Ecuador for the winter, enjoying the warmth and the sunshine and the ocean, and feeling sorry for you folks back in Michigan who are probably still battling some snow. Last night we had a Zoom meeting with John Cox talking about the Feel Great system. And unfortunately, the recording didn't turn out well. And so we're going to present some of the information from last night on this video. Our story, about 2 months ago, Barb and I were introduced to the Feel Great system by Shelby Craney. She and John and Amy came down and did a presentation for us, and we could see immediately the benefit for us personally, but also professionally for many patients who were suffering from insulin resistance and all of the chronic diseases that go along with it. Since that time, my blood pressure, which was newly diagnosed in November, has completely normalized. I had reflux and esophageal stricture for many years. That is completely gone. Chronic low back pain from a birth defect, also gone. Prostate is much better. I only have to get up once at night instead of 2 or 3 times. Energy is better. Our visceral fat is much improved. We've both had to buy smaller clothing. And I've eliminated some skin tags from around my neck. So we are very happy with these products. Last night on the Zoom, there were some real nice testimonials. Unfortunately, we don't have access to that. So let's proceed with tonight's topic, inflammation, rusting from the inside out. You're all familiar with how steel rusts. Well, in the body, that's called oxidation. And it's a very common problem, and it's associated with inflammation. Our motto is put your health in your own hands. And this is an important concept. And you'll see as we go through this, you're going to learn some techniques and some information that you can begin to do this, to put your health in your own hands. So let's talk about healthy metabolism. That is how well your cells use the food that you eat, turning it into energy without creating a massive amount of inflammation and toxic waste in the process. There's 2 kinds of inflammation. Acute inflammation from an injury, like a twisted ankle. That's like a loud shout. It's like a paramedic that comes in to fix the problem, and then as it heals, the inflammation leaves. Chronic inflammation, on the other hand, just like a constant whisper. There's no big event. It's just aches and pains and stiffness and things like that. And that's caused by the ultra-processed food that you eat for breakfast, the cortisol spiking from your stressful lives, the lack of sleep, and environmental toxins. So let's talk about chronic inflammation. Imagine your body is a house. Metabolic health means that the electricity works, the pipes flow, and the trash is taken out. Right now, most of us live in houses that are slowly catching fire. And that fire is chronic inflammation. Inflammation actually starts in the gut. What are we feeding our microbiome? The microbiome is the trillions of bacteria that live in our digestive tract. The processed foods, sugars, and chemicals, things that our body was never designed to handle. This causes the gut lining to weaken, allowing toxins to leak back into the bloodstream. That leakage triggers the immune system, which causes the inflammation. So what is a leaky gut? Well, highly processed foods cause damage to the gut lining, and so toxins and undigested foods can enter the blood. These look foreign to your immune system. For many years, we've been doing food sensitivity testing. The tests come back and they show antibodies to certain foods in a person's blood. How does that happen? These undigested foods enter the blood. These look foreign to your immune system, and so your immune system floods your body with inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. These cytokines travel throughout your body to your cells, and they can physically damage insulin receptors. So insulin comes along and tries to insert the key into the insulin receptor lock. It doesn't fit, so sugar remains high, and you have insulin resistance. The first source of chronic inflammation is acellular carbohydrates. When you eat fruit and vegetables, the sugar is trapped inside of the plant cells, and your gut has to work to break those cell walls down, so sugar hits your bloodstream slowly. With processed foods, that cellular wall is gone, so sugar explodes into your gut and into your bloodstream, and you get sugar and insulin spikes. There's an immediate inflammatory response from your immune system. That's kind of like throwing lighter fluid on a grill. The second source of chronic inflammation is industrial seed oils. Soybean oil, corn oil, canola, sunflower oil, vegetable oils. These are all very high in omega-6s. Now, omega-6 and omega-3 oils are supposed to be in a 1-to-1 ratio. Omega-6 promotes acute inflammation to help heal. Omega-3 calms inflammation. But seed oils have omega-6 and omega-3 ratio of about 20-to-1. These omega-6 oils become part of your cell walls. They are weak and they oxidize easily, rusting from the inside out. And they are constantly releasing inflammatory cytokines. This is what a healthy cell membrane looks like. This phospholipid layer is nice and healthy. The barrier is nice and tight. It is strong and it is healthy. You can see the receptors on the outside of the membrane, and there's lots of hydration. An unhealthy cell membrane looks kind of like this. That phospholipid layer is damaged. You can see all of this chaos going on around that cell. So the main causes of inflammation are a diet that spikes your insulin, sugars, and flours, a diet that builds your cells out of inflammatory material, seed oils. And part of the solution, we just have to stop eating those things that come in crinkly packages with barcodes. If we did this, we would eliminate much of the inflammatory load on our body. So let's talk about the Feel Great system. This system has two parts. The first part is intermittent fasting. So we recommend no food for a 12 to 18 hour period. Normally, people will not eat breakfast and will have the first meal of the day between 10 or 12 o'clock at noon. They'll eat lunch and then also dinner in the evening, but then not eat again until the next noon. During that time, your gut rests and you burn fat. There are two tools in this system to help: Unimate and Balance. They come in these little packets. You add them to a specified amount of water, and we'll discuss in a minute here how they work. Does Unimate calm inflammation? Well, there's no magic powder that's going to cancel out a bad lifestyle. So if you're eating seed oils and sugar all day, drinking Unimate is like tossing a cup of water on a house fire. it won't save the house. When you look at yerba mate, however, the chemistry is very interesting. This product is found in the PDR, the physician desk reference, and it is patented. Yerba mate is a highly concentrated, specialized extract of yerba mate. It's not just tea. It is a specific preparation of yerba mate, chlorogenic acid, and 3 other ingredients. Now, chlorogenic acid is a potent polyphenol. It is an antioxidant. Remember, your cells are rusting or oxidizing from chronic inflammation. This inflammation releases something called free radicals. These are molecules that are missing an electron, and they will steal that electron from any place they can. If they steal it from a molecule in the cell wall, it creates a weakening and an inflammatory reaction. Chlorogenic acid acts like scavengers. It hunts down and neutralizes free radicals before they can damage your cell membranes. By lowering the rusting or oxidation, you lower the alarm signals that keep your immune system overly active. Chlorogenic acid can stimulate the release of GLP-1. Now, GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide number 1. So this is released in your gut. You've all heard of Ozempic. This is a synthetic drug that mimics natural GLP-1. When your body produces its own GLP-1, it slows down gastric emptying and improves insulin sensitivity, and our insulin levels begin to drop. Normalizing the insulin response removes the fuel from the inflammatory fire. Yerba mate also contains mate saponins. These help improve energy and mental clarity. They help your body to burn fat for fuel during your fasting. Visceral fat is not just a stored form of energy, but it crowds our organs, and it is an active organ itself that pumps out enzymes and inflammatory cytokines. If you can burn that fat, you physically are removing one source of inflammation. Is yerba mate a miracle? No. Does it work? Yes. It works by hacking the hunger signals and the craving signals and providing a massive dose of antioxidants to calm the cellular oxidation and rusting. You use it as a tool to extend your fasting window. It gives your gut a break from digestion and allows inflammation to settle. But you have to use it strategically. It's not just a drink to wash down a donut. You need to sip it when you feel hunger and cravings throughout the morning, afternoon, and in the evening if you're not caffeine sensitive. The biggest sources of inflammation then are acellular carbohydrates, refined sugars and starches, blood sugar and insulin spikes. When you eat all the time, there's a constant chemical state of emergency. And seed oils that cause us to have defective cell membranes. So the second product, Unicity Balance, is the solution. It is a patented fiber-rich drink. It is also found in the PDR, and it contains 7 ingredients. When you drink it 5 to 10 minutes before your meal, it coats the inside of the stomach and intestines. It traps the refined sugars and starches, so there's no explosive sugar and insulin spikes. Sugars just trickle into your bloodstream. And it helps heal the leaky gut. This product, Balance, feeds the microbiome. Remember, the microbiome is all those good, healthy bacteria that live in our digestive tract. We do not have the enzymes to digest fiber. However, the good bacteria love fiber. And as they ferment the fiber, they create a chemical called butyrate. Now, butyrate is a short-chain fatty acid that heals the bowel lining. It reduces the leaky gut, and it signals the immune system to calm down. Incidentally, they do produce some odorless gas. So if you're doing the system and you have an extra amount of gas, don't be surprised if the gas is foul smelling. However, that means there is still a definite imbalance of bacteria in your gut, and that should get better over time. What is butyrate? Again, it's a short-chain fatty acid produced by the good bugs that eat the fiber. Most cells in our body use sugar for fuel, except the cells that line the colon. These cells, 75% of their energy comes from butyrate, 25% comes from sugar. So when you use this fiber drink, the good bacteria ferment the fiber and produce butyrate. The colon cells become healthier, and the bonds between those cells get tighter, and this heals the leaky gut. So it is a natural anti-inflammatory. When undigested foods, toxins, and bacteria are no longer absorbed back into your blood, the inflammatory cytokines are not released. Butyrate also interacts with the regulatory T cells in your colon, calming the overactive immune system. So let's talk about the immune system and gut health. It is an amazingly complex system. It's a surveillance system, and it's looking for invaders like a security system. However, it has a limited capacity, and so infections and malignancies can sneak past this system when it is too busy fighting off undigested food and toxins that have been allowed back into your bloodstream by our leaky gut. When we were in school, that we learned that the function of the colon, or the large intestine, is to reabsorb water from the material that's coming from the small intestine. Actually, the colon is also a farm. It uses the fiber in your food to feed the good bugs, and the good bugs make that butyrate. That feeds the colon lining cells, tightens their junctions, and fixes the leaky gut. This produces a massive reduction in the inflammatory load. Just a note on probiotics and prebiotics. Probiotic supplements are good bacteria. Things like lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, megaspore biotic. These are things that we need. However, most of these supplements do not get past the stomach acid or the body heat. Think about it for a minute. If you keep the supplement in the refrigerator so that they don't die off, and then you put it in your body, which is 98 degrees, most of them are not going to survive. So if you are going to use probiotic supplements, use one that does not need to be refrigerated. Now, you don't need to supplement if you feed the normal bacteria that are already in your system. Prebiotics are fibers that feed these bacteria. And since most of us don't get enough fiber, these good bacteria cannot reproduce themselves enough. So that's why in the past you may have had to take a probiotic supplement. Balance also binds the bile from your liver. The bile from your liver contains a lot of cholesterol. So when the fiber binds the bile, it removes the cholesterol. Without the fiber, the LDL cholesterol is reabsorbed back into your system. So by cycling out the LDL with your bowel movements, you reduce the inflammatory LDL load in your blood. Balance is like a shock absorber. It reduces the sugar and insulin spikes, stopping inflammation before it starts. It feeds the microbiome, producing butyrate. So you are making your own anti-inflammatories, and it reduces the leaky gut. It removes inflammatory cholesterol. So let's review inflammation sources: refined sugars and starches. seed oils. Too much omega-6 causes you to have weak cellular structures. Lack of fiber causes an unhealthy microbiome. And visceral fat produces enzymes and inflammatory cytokines. Solutions to inflammation. Intermittent fasting reduces visceral fat. Eating whole foods. Avoid acellular carbohydrates. Avoid seed oils. That means deep fried foods, chips, and those kinds of snacks. Unimate reduces food and sugar cravings. It is a potent anti-inflammatory. It is a free radical scavenger. It increases GLP-1 in your body. Balance slows the sugar insulin spikes. It maintains a healthy microbiome. It heals the leaky gut and reduces LDL cholesterol. Stop the rusting from the inside out. So you now know a little bit about how to do that. But you must decide if you desire to do something about it now. Don't do it for someone else. You have to do this for yourself. When you are ready, get with the person who sent you this video. Take that first step today. So you have to put your health in your own hands. You have to be like this little guy here. Maybe you're the only one in the crowd who's taking care of themselves, but you have to do this. So get with the person who invited you. And if you need to get a hold of me, bob.huttinga@gmail.com. Thank you and have a great evening.